What's up, you amazing hackers? Welcome back to the channel. So, you want to become a hacker in 2022? Let's go over some resources. In this video series, yes, it's gonna be a series because this is gonna be a long one. I'm gonna go over several topics which I find important and also some resources, both free and paid, where you can pick up these skills from absolute zero. Well, from absolute zero, I mean a little bit of IT knowledge, like you have to know how to turn on a computer and you have to know how to work with Windows a bit, but we'll start from there because our first topic is gonna be Linux. And for Linux, the first item I have, and of course you can find a link to all of these in the description as well, is a course. And it's going to take about 14 weeks. This is self-paced and it is free with optional upgrades available. So that's definitely something that I think a lot of you guys will enjoy. I think it's a very good option to learn Linux a little bit and to get better acquainted with the basics. And above all, it is free. Now, the second resource, I think, is also free. This is an 8-hour course, which is also online and self-paced, has coursework and a community where you can share your knowledge or ask questions with a proof of completion. Freaking awesome. Next one I have for you guys is Linux Survival, and this is a really cool website where you can interactively learn how to work with Linux. Now, why do I think Linux is so important? Because compatibility. A lot of software works better on Linux/Unix based systems. I don't know why. Well, of course I know why, but the thing is, you have to be able to work with all of these items if you ever want to become proficient. Of course, you can work with Windows as well, but it works a lot slower in my experience. Does that mean you cannot hack with Windows? No, absolutely not. I've seen people who are major hackers with Windows. Freaking awesome. Now, Linux is necessary for network hacking because a lot of the servers you will encounter will be in Linux. Do you have any ideas why you should be learning Linux? Let me know in the comments below. And on Amazon, we have a lot of books as well. Now, these books, for example, some of them are free, which is definitely interesting. Now, of course, you need to look at Linux ebooks in particular. You can look at free ebooks, definitely a good option, and you'll find a lot of ebooks here that are available for you to learn from. Now, it might be a bit overwhelming because you might find a lot of books, and it might be that you will have to pick between which ones you're going for. Don't do this unless you absolutely need it and want it. The other websites are gonna be good enough. A book, in my opinion, is the least flexible option. Once you've written a book, it's harder to make a change, and it doesn't often happen. While a website is dynamic, a course is pretty dynamic, so you'll get a lot more value from that. Speaking of a website, this is also a really good one, and it is the Bash Beginner series. Now, Bash is also super important to learn for automation and just again for proficiency. You want to be very proficient, and Bash is gonna help you a lot in that. Now, do you really need Bash? Not if you're a web hacker, for example. You don't need it per se, but it will help you a lot. Onto Udemy, we have a lot of free Linux courses on Udemy as well, so why not dive in and just give it a shot. Also, this one is a great one, Introduction to Windows Server and Linux for Beginners by Paul Hill. Very short, very concise, and extremely well written in my opinion. Then we have the next site, which is from EDX again, and this is Introduction to Devops, Transforming and Improving Operations. We're moving more into the medium advanced field here. If you want to take it a step further, this is how a lot of companies work these days with DevOps, and it'll help you understand the processes I think it's really important to understand those processes that a company goes through. It can help you in deciding or sniffing out vulnerabilities, as I like to call it, because if you know where a lot of the mistakes are made, you know where to look. The next one I have is Linux Security, the complete Iptables firewall guide. Again, a little bit more advanced, but completely necessary if you're ever going to go for network hacking. This one is a little bit more expensive. It's on sale right now, so that's definitely an option if you want. But of course, you can simply Google for free guides on Iptables. It's not that hard, but you need to have the basics first, so go through these in order a little bit. Then we have Linux Mastery, master the Linux command line in 11.5 hours. This is a great course in my opinion. Excellent, excellent, really well written. This is something that you need if you want to take it to the next level. Now, if you are content with the beginner stuff, that is fine. If you are only going to use Linux for your VPS or for yourself, then do it. Then stop here and move on to the next section. Don't dive too deep if you don't have to. That's up to you. I cannot decide that for you, but you will have to look into that. We'll move on to the programming section, and in programming, we'll start with HTML. Why start with HTML? It's simple, real simple. Everybody can pick it up, real fast to learn as well. And Tutorials Point has a great tutorial on it. I don't like W3 school. I don't know a lot of people. Well, some people do. I think they spread a bit of misinformation sometimes, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. I don't want to hate on them. They do have a lot of good stuff on there as well. It's just that I didn't go through it myself because I found that there were some errors on there. Now, a lot of good information as well again, but I recommend HTML Tutorials Point. Then we'll move on to Python. Python, learnpython.org. Beautiful, beautiful free website to learn Python. You can see the syllabus on my screen right now. You start with the basics, go through data science, and then some advanced tutorials. Beautiful, especially those serialization parts. If you guys know what that means, it's a bad vulnerability that's really hard to prevent. Now, or at least it can introduce bad vulnerabilities that are harder to prevent. That's what I should be saying. This is important because you want to automate stuff sometimes. Python is a simple language to learn. You have to make your files beautiful. You have to format them properly, otherwise it doesn't run. So that's why I recommend Python. The next one is also for Python from Coursera. Now you can, this is Python scripting for Devops specialization. This is an addition to the Devops course for Linux that we just saw. And then we have a free code camp as well. And I can recommend any of these tutorials on Python, on JavaScript, on Selenium. It's a little bit up to you where you go from here. My personal recommendation, HTML, JavaScript, PHP. Those will give you some basics about interaction, and then you can add on MySQL for some databases as well, making yourself a beautiful, useful website that you will use yourself, that will give you much more motivation. Now is the time for a nice project. Talk about APIs, for example. That's something that I would also recommend to look at. And Node.js in general, which is JavaScript in server form. So that's it for the first part. That's all laying the foundations. That's giving you some basics to start with. And in the next sections, you can have a look at this list of resources yourself. By the way, we will start with the actual hacking part. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next part. Bye, amazing hacker. Much love.